Today we're finishing the 248th Positive Mitzvos. We're starting with Kuf Samech Zayin, 167. We're in the middle of the mitzvah that have to do with the calendar. Yesterday we learned about not doing work on the first day of Sukkot. Today we say Lishbot Bashmini Shel Chag, to rest on the Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot. Shene'emaru Vayom HaShmini Mikra Kodesh. The 8th day is holy. Kuf Samech Het Leishev Basukah Shivat Yamim. Sit in the sukkah for 7 days. Shene'emar basukot teshvu shivat yamim. If to sit in the sukkah for 7 days. Kuf samech tet. 169, another mitzvah for Sukkot. Litol lulav, to take the lulav every day of Sukkot. Shene'emar lekachtem lachem bayom harishon pri eitz hadar kapot marim. You take on the first day the beautiful fruit and the lulav. First day is only outside of the Bet HaMikdash. In the Bet HaMikdash it took all 7 days lulav. After the Churban, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said we should all do 7 days. That's why even today we take the lulav for 7 days. Kuf Ayin 170, Lishmoa Kol Shofar B'Rosh Hashanah, to hear the shofar. Shene'emar Yom Teruah Lechem, it's a day of blowing shofar. Kuf Ayin Aleph, another mitzvah connected with the calendar. Liten Machatzit HaShekel B'Chol Shana V'Shana. Once a year, every Jew had to give a half a shekel for the korbanot, because korbanot every day were brought on behalf of all the Jewish people. In order to have a part in the korban, you give once a year a coin, and then that went to pay for the sacrifices. Shene'emar Zayitnu Kol HaOver Al HaPkudim. This is what they should give. Every person who wants to be counted has to give a little coin to participate in the mitzvah. Now we go to mitzvot that have to do with authority. People that have leadership positions. First of all, Kuf Ayin Bet, Lishmoa Mikol Navi, Sheyehei B'Chol Dor V'Dor. Listen to every prophet in every generation. Lo Yosif V'Lo Yigra. If he doesn't add anything to the Torah or take away. Shene'emar Yelav Tishmaon. But if a Navi comes and says, don't have to keep Shabbat forever, then that's a problem. But typically, you listen to him. Kuf Ayin Gimel Lemanot Melech, to appoint a king. Shene'emar Som Tasim Alecha Melech. You have to have a king upon yourself. Kuf Ayin Daled Lishmoa Mikol Beidin Agadol, Sheyadu Lehem Li-Yisrael. Any high court of Sanhedrin that stands up in the Jewish people, you have to listen to them. Shene'emar V'al HaMishpat Asher Yamru Lecha Ta'aseh. Whatever judgment they say, you listen. Kuf Ayin He. 175. In the Beit Din itself, lintot acharei rabim. They have to go after the majority. Im tiyeh machloket ben sanhedrin badinin. If they have an argument in law, you have to go after the majority. Shene'emar acharei rabim lehatot. You go after the majority. Kuf ayin vav lemanot shoftim b'shotrim b'chol kahal v'kahal me'Yisrael. Besides for the high court, 71 judges, every community has to have judges and policemen. Shene'emar shoftim b'shotrim titen lecha. Make yourself judges and policemen. Kuf Ayin Zayin. Now we mentioned the court. We go to a bunch of laws about the court. First of all, lehashvot ben baalei dinin. You have to treat litigants equally. B'sha'ah she'omdin badin. You can't say, oh, he's rich, he's poor, I'm going to be mechabed the rich man. No, it doesn't work. Shene'emar betzedek tishbot amitecha. You have to judge in righteousness. Kuf Ayin Chet 178, laha'id bebeit din l'mi sheyesh lo edut. If you know testimony, you have to come testify. Shene'emar v'hu ed or ra'ah yada. If you're a witness, you saw or you knew about it, you have to come. Kuf Ayin Tet lachkor ha'edim harbe. You have to cross-examine, you have to investigate the witnesses thoroughly. Shene'emar v'darashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta heitev. You have to inquire and check and ask. Very good. Kuf Pei la'asot le'edim zomimin kemoshe zamamu la'asot. If there's edim zomimim, that means witnesses that were contradicted, but not in their testimony. Not like you said he killed somebody and other people say he didn't kill him. Edim zomimin means two people come and say Reuven killed Shimon on Tuesday, and then Levi and Yehuda say, we don't know what happened, but those two witnesses were with us on Tuesday, so they couldn't have seen it. That's Edim Zomimim. So when that happens, you do to them whatever they wanted to do. Shene'emar v'asitem lo ka'asher zamam. Do like he planned. Kuf Pei Aleph. La'arof et ha'egla kemitzvata. Special mitzvah to chop off a little calf's neck when you find somebody that's dead, and you don't know who killed him. So the nearest city has to bring a egla arufa. Take a calf next to the stream, you chop his head off, a whole thing. Shene'emar v'arfu sham et ha'egla b'nachal, that they have to chop off the calf's neck in the stream. Kuf Pei Bet lahachin shesh arei miklat. You have to prepare 6 cities to escape to if someone kills by mistake. Shene'emar tachin lecha haderech v'shilashta. Prepare the way. V'shilashta means divide Eretz Yisrael. If you have min ha-tzafon la-darom, you have the length, so you have to divide it in 3, and every third you put in another city.
City of refuge.
City of refuge. Kuf Pei Gimel, latet la leviyim arim la shevet. Also to give the Leviyim special cities to live in, because every shevet got a portion in Eretz Yisrael. Besides for Shevet Levi, they have to get cities in every Jewish portion. V'gam hein kol tot. And they're also, you can escape to there if you killed by mistake. They count as a miklat. Can. Lazeh, yeah, Latzorech hazeh, Kohanim and Leviyim were included in this. Shene'emar v'natnu la'leviyim arim. You give the cities to the Leviyim. Kuf pei dalid la'asot ma'akeh. To make a fence around your roof. If you have a flat roof in your house, you have to make ma'akeh, a fence. Shene'emar v'asita ma'akeh legagecha. Make a ma'akeh for your roof. And now we move on to Avodah Zarah. La'abed Avodah Zarah v'chol meshamsha. When we move to Israel, we have to destroy every idol and everything that serves it. Shene'emar abed ta'abdun v'gomer. And also laharog anshe ir hanidachat v'lisrof et ha'ir. If an entire city is convinced to serve Avodah Zarah, you have to kill everybody and burn the city. Shene'emar v'sarafta ba'esh et ha'ir ve'et kol shlala. You have to burn and fire the city and all of its possessions. Kuf Pei Zayin la'abed shiv'a amamim eretz Yisrael. You have to also destroy all the 7 nations who were living in Israel. Shene'emar hacharem tacharimim. It's also a way to distance ourselves from following their ways and serving idols. Kuf Pei Chet lahachrit zar'o shel Amalek. Destroy Amalek. Shene'emar timche et zecher Amalek. Same thing. It's a way of stopping Goyish influence. Kuf Pei Tet lizkor masha asalanu Amalek tadir. We have to always remember what Amalek did to us. Shene'emar zachor et asher asal lecha Amalek. Remember what Amalek did. Never forget it. Kuf tzadik la'asot b'milchemet harishut kamishpat ha'katuv b'Torah. If we're fighting an optional war, not a mitzvah war, we're just fighting a war because we want to have more territory, let's say. We have to follow the laws in the Torah. Shene'emar ki tikrav el ir. Whenever you come close to a city, there's a whole way you do. You offer them peace. They can leave if they want. Otherwise, you make a war, a whole thing. Kuf tzadik aleph limshoach kohen lemilchama. A special kohen has to be appointed to be in charge of war. Shene'emar v'haya kekoravchem ala milchama. When you come close to the war, v'nigash hakohen b'diber ala am. There's a special kohen who speaks to the people. He gives them a whole motivational speech, a whole thing. Kuf tzadik bet. More about the war. Lahatkin yad b'machana. You have to make a special area. Yad means makom. In the camp to use as a bathroom. Shene'emar v'yad tiyeh lecha michutz lamachana. You have an area outside the camp. Kuf tzadik gimel lahatkin yated. Every soldier has to have a shovel together with his weapons to be able to dig in the ground to go to the bathroom. Shene'emar v'yated tiyeh lecha al azeinecha. You have to have a shovel together with your weapons, and that's a way of keeping tzniut. Kuf tzadik daled. Now we go to mitzvahs involved with money. Lahashiv et hagezel. To return a stolen object. If you robbed somebody of something, you have to return it. Shene'emar v'heshiv et hagzila asher gazal. Return the stolen object that you stole. Kuf tzadik ten tzedakah. To give tzedakah to poor people. Shene'emar patoach tiftach et yodcha. Open up your hand. Kuf tzadik vav laha'anik le'eved ivri. If a Jewish servant serves you for 6 years, when he leaves, you have to give him presents. Shene'emar ha'anek ta'anik lo. Give him presents. V'chen oma ivriya. Also a Jewish maidservant, even though it doesn't say in the Torah, in the female, only says lo, but we learn that it's v'af la'amotcha ta'aseken. You have to also do it to your maiden.
This is in the parsha right now.
That's right. This week's parsha. Kuf tzadik zayin lahalvot le'ani. To give loans to poor people. Shene'emar im kesef talvet ami. If you give a loan, even though it says if, im zeh eino reshut. This word im is not optional, ela mitzvah. Shene'emar v'ha'aveta v'tenu. You must lend him. Kuf tzadik chet lahalvot lanochri biribit. If you lend to a goy, you have to lend with interest. Shene'emar lanochri tachshich. You must bite into the non-Jew. Mipi hashmo lamdu. This is tradition. Shezum mitzvat asei. It means you have to give him with ribit. Kuf tzadik tet. 199 lahashiv hamashkon li ba'alav. If you gave somebody a loan and they gave you a collateral, keep this as a surefire way that I'm going to return the loan to you. But they need it. Let's say it's a poor man's blanket. He gives you a blanket. So by night, you have to return it to him so you can use it. Shene'emar hashev tashiv lo et ha'avot. You must return to him the collateral so he can use it whenever he needs. Reish. 200. Litein schar sachir bizmano. To pay a wage of a worker in its time. Shene'emar biyomot litein scharo. If he's a day worker, you pay him right afterwards by night. If he's a night worker, you pay him right afterwards by day. If he's a week worker, you pay him at the end of the week. You always pay him right away. Reish Aleph liyot hasachir ochel bizman schiruto. A worker, if he's working with the field, with the crops, with produce, he can eat while he works. Shene'emar kitavo bekedem re'echa, kitavo bekamat re'echa. When you work in your friend's vineyard, in your friend's standing grain, you can eat there. Reish Bet la'azov me'al chavero me'al behemto. You have to help your friend or his animal if they have a load and it's too heavy for them. You have to help them. Shene'emar azov ta'azov imo. Help him. Reish Gimel lahakim ha'masal ha'be'ema. Not only do you have to help him unload, you have to also help him reload if he needs to put the load onto the animal. Shene'emar hakem takim imo. Lift it up, lift it with him. Reish Daled lahashiv ha'aveda. Return lost objects. Shene'emar hashev tashivim la'achicha. You return them to your brother. Reish Hey 205. Lehochiach hachoteh. To rebuke a person that sins. Shene'emar ocheach tochech et amitacha. You must rebuke your friend. Reish Vav le'ehov kol adam mibnei brit. You have to love every person from the Jewish people. Shene'emar ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Wow, this week's parsha again. Reish Zayin le'ehov et hager. A special mitzvah to love the convert. Shene'emar ve'ahavtem et hager. Love the convert. Reish Chet, Litzadek hamoznaim im hamishkalot. Make sure your weights and measures are righteous. They're not missing. They're not faulty. Shenemar moznei tzedek avnei tzedek. Scales of righteousness, stones of righteousness. Reish Tet 209. Lechabed hachachamim. You have to honor Talmidei Chachamim. Shenemar mipnei seva takum. Somebody who's old. Old means zeh shekona chokhmah. You have to stand up in front of him. Reish Yud lechabed av va'em. You have to honor your parents, father and mother. Shenemar kabed et avicha ve'et imacha. That's in the Ten Commandments. Liyirah me'avayim. You have to fear, with respect, your father and mother. Shenemar ish imo ve'aviv tirao. Like you don't contradict them, you don't sit in their place. And now, once we mention parents, we move to mitzvahs about marriage. Reish Yud Bet, lifrot v'lirabot. Every person must have children. Shenemar peru urevu. Be fruitful and multiply. It's very interesting. This is the only time that the Rambam brings a verse from before Matan Torah. Typically, all mitzvot come from after Matan Torah. This is in the Parashat Bereshit. So the commentaries wonder about this, but the bottom line is that's the mitzvah. Reish Yud Gimel live all b'kiddushin. You can only have relations with a woman if you do kiddushin first. You give her a ring or something like that to acquire her. Shenemar ki yikach ish isha, then uva eleha. Reish Yud Daled 2:14 l'sameach chatanim et ishto shana achat. A new groom has to be with his wife for a full year to make her happy. Shenemar naki yele beto shana achat. He's clean to his house for a year. Reish Tet Vav lamud et haben. Once you get married, you have children. You have to give a brit. You have a brit to the son. Shenemar vayom hashmini yimol b'sar arlato. 8th day, you have to take off the skin of his foreskin. Reish Tet Zayin liabem eshet ach also comes out of a marriage. If a person dies childless, then the brother of the husband has to marry his brother's wife. Shenemar yavam hayavo aleh. The yavam has to marry her. Reish Yud Zayin lachlot liyavam. If they don't want to get married, you do chalitza. It's a whole process where she takes off his shoe and then spits. The whole thing. Shenemar v'chaltza me'alo me'al raglo. Remove the shoe from his foot. Reish Yud Chet lisa ones et anusato. If you rape a girl, you have to marry her. Shenemar v'lo tiyeh li'isha. She stays his wife. Reish Yud Tet le'shev motzi shemra im ishto kol yamav. If a person got married and then said bad rumors about his wife that she wasn't a virgin, and then it's discovered that it's not true, he has to stay with her the whole life. Shenemar v'lo tiyeh li'isha le'yuchal l'shalcha kol yamav. She stays his wife and he cannot send her away. Reish Chaf ladun b'mefateh. If a person seduces a virgin, you have to give a certain amount of money as a fine, b'chamishim shekel, im sha'ar dinin, 50 shekel with other laws. Shenemar v'chi yifateh, when he seduces, there's a whole set of laws for that. Reish Chaf Aleph la'asot lifatar kakatuv. A beautiful woman who is captured in war, non-Jewish woman, you can do to her the process that it says in the Torah, where you convert her and then the whole thing. Shenemar v'ra'ita b'shivya eshet yifatar. If you see in the captives a beautiful woman, you can take her for a wife in certain conditions. Reish Chav Bet legaresh bishtar. If the marriage has to end and you go to divorce, you have to divorce with a document. Shenemar v'katav la sefer kritut v'natan b'yada. You write her the book and then you give it in her hands. Reish Chav Gimel la'asot la'sota ketorah. If a woman is a suspected adultery, you do to her according to the Torah laws. Shenemar v'asala hakohen et kol Torah hazot. The Kohen has to do the whole Torah, the whole law to her. Reish Chav Daled lehalkot hareshaim, to give malkut. Laharbitz. If you have to hit a rasha, you have to do it in bet din. Shenemar v'hipilo hashofet v'hikal. The judge should throw him down and give him a hit. Reish Chav Hei lehaglot ratzeach bishgagav. If a person kills inadvertently by mistake, you have to send him to exile in the Arei Miklat. Shenemar v'yashav ba ad mot hakohen. He stays until the Kohen Gadol dies. Reish Chavav. Now we move to laws that bet din has to do to other people. Liot bet din horgin b'sayif. The high court has to kill with beheading, with a sword. Shenemar nakom yenakem. They take revenge, that means a sword. Reish Chav Zayin liot bet din horgin mechenek. Sometimes the court kills with strangulation, with choking. Shenemar mot yumat hanoef v'hanoafet. The adulterer and the adulteress, they die. Whenever we have the expression mot yumat in the Torah, it means choking. Reish Chav Chet 228. Liot bet din sorfin ba'esh. Sometimes the court would kill by burning through fire. Shenemar ba'esh yisrufu oto ve'aten. They burn him and her in fire. Practically, we don't burn with fire. You never put somebody into a fire. You just pour hot lead down their throat, and it burns their insides. Reish Chav Tet. Liot bet din soklin ba'avanim. High court has to stone with stones. Shenemar yoskaltem otam. Sometimes you have to be stoned to death. Reish Lamed litlot mishnit chayev tliya. Sometimes they have to hang a person. Whoever is obligated to be hung, you have to hang him. Shenemar v'tlita oto al eitz. Hang him on a tree. However, Reish Lamed Aleph likbar nerag b'yomo. If a person is killed, you have to bury him on the same day. The Rambam says if someone's killed, but the truth is every person. In Sefer HaMitzvot, he writes that it applies to all metim. You do your best to bury them on the same day that they die. Shenemar ki kavor tikbirenu bayomahu. You bury him on that day. Reish Lamed Bet ladun be'eved ivri ki ilchotav. There's special laws that apply to a Jewish servant. You have to do all the laws. Shenemar ki tikneh eved ivri. When you buy a Jewish slave, you have a whole set of mitzvot. Reish Lamed Gimel liya'ed ama ivriya. If you have a Jewish maid servant, a girl, you should marry her, ideally. Shene'emar asher lo ya'ada v'im livno ya'adana. He designates him for her or for at least his son. Reish Lamed Daled lifdot ama ivriya. You have to help her be redeemed if she goes into slavery. Shene'emar v'hefda. Help her become redeemed. Reish Lamed Hei la'avod ba'eved k'nani lo'lam. Non-Jewish slave, you stay with him forever. Shene'emar le'olam b'hem ta'avodu. Work with them forever. Reish Lamed Vav liot ha'chovel m'shalem mamon. And now we go into laws that have to do with Beis Din and money. If a person hits a friend and bruises him, you have to pay him. If the people fight and one man hits a friend, there's ways to pay. If your animal damages, you also have to pay. If the ox of one person pushes another ox and he damages him, you have to pay. Better not to judge in damages of a pit. If a person opens up a pit in a public place, somebody falls in, you're responsible. A thief sometimes has to pay, and other times he even gets killed. If a person steals regular money and he's caught, he pays double. If he's caught breaking into a house under the ground, then you can kill him first. If you kidnap a person, then you have to get killed. So some ganavim, if you take money, you have to pay. If you take people, you get killed. Reish Mem, ladun b'nizkei haver, to deal with the damages of eating. Shene'emar ki haver ish sadeh ocherem. If a person sends his animal out into a field or a vineyard, he eats up the produce, he has to pay. Reish Mem Aleph, ladun b'nizkei ha'esh, to deal with damages of fire. Shene'emar ki tetzei esh u'matzah kotzim. If you're fire, you have a barbecue in your backyard, the fire jumps over and it damages another person's field, you have to pay. Reish Mem Bet, ladun b'din shomer chinam. If you have a person watch something for you for free, there's a whole set of laws for him. Shene'emar ki ten ish al re'eyo kesef okelim. If you give your friend money or vessels to watch, but no payment, and it gets lost, sometimes he's obligated, sometimes not, it depends. Reish Mem Gimel, ladun b'din oseh sachar v'socher. What if you gave somebody something to watch, but you're going to pay him? Now there's other laws, it's more chamur. Or socher, someone rents from you his bike, he rents your bike and now he damages it. What do you have to do? Depends. You have to fix it sometimes. If you give an ox or a donkey to watch for payment. To deal with a borrower. If you borrow somebody's possessions and you lose it or you damage it, what do you do? If a person borrows from his friend, there's a whole set of mitzvot. To deal with buying and selling property. If you sell something to your friend, there's rules about that. Betin has to take care. If there's any two litigants come to court and they have claims, you have to deal with them properly. Anything which a person claims negligence and he comes to court, there's rules. You have to save somebody being chased, even if you have to kill the chaser. Cut her hand off if you need. And finally, we have the mitzvah that only applies after death, because all the mitzvahs apply during lifetime. Now we have after death, inheritance. If a person passes away, Beis Din has to take care of a person's property. If a man dies with no sons,
Then it goes to his daughters.
the Rebbe explained why is inheritance last? Because we say, inheritance is our deepest relationship with Hashem. When you're born a baby, if your father dies that day, you inherit everything. So the Rambam concludes with the mitzvah of inheritance.